everybody, welcome back to Born with a Beard. Today we're gonna talk about, wait a second, poles. Okay, let's first talk a little bit about the safety. We have two types of poles, like the material where they're made from usually. You have also bamboo and stuff like that, but usually it's or carbon, like this pole, or we have aluminium. What's the difference? Well, carbon is way more flexible, so you can bend it and it bends back, and aluminium, when it bends, it stays like that. From a safety standpoint, like aluminium is way more safe because if it breaks, it just snaps in half and it stays like that. Carbon, if it snaps, it gets these really sharp points. So from a safety standpoint, I would say aluminium wins, but I myself love to ski with carbon because if you do that pole plant, the rebound in the pole itself, it's amazing. Second thing about safety. If you look at the top of the pole, there are some really important safety standards. So if you look at the pole, you see that the tops are way bigger than the rest. Usually that's really nice to hold on to, obviously, that it doesn't slip out of your hand. But the other thing is this has to be big enough that it does not fit into your eye socket. Why is this? If you fall and you get your eye into your head, what you would not like, then it's safe because it cannot go inside. This is also a regulation in Europe that poles have to be like that. Some don't have it, like if you take, for example, walking sticks or stuff like that, but all the skiing poles usually have it, but look out for that. That's one dangerous thing. We also have a couple of different types of foldable poles. For example, this is a three-way foldable pole, so you can unlock it, shove this out, and you can unlock this part and shove this out. The advantage of poles like this is that you can make them really small. You can change the length. You see also sometimes people use this with kids because if they grow they need bigger or smaller poles. And usually this is used for ski touring, stuff like that, going off-piste and things like that. But you also have a double system like this. The advantage of this system is that it's a little lighter because this only has one metal thing and the other one has two. So this is a little bit of a lighter system, and that way you can adjust the height. And it's really nice and light. Also carbon with a big basket for off-piste, really nice pole. And there is a pole for everybody. For example, like this one, the Lakey. It's called the Hot Shot, and this is especially for your après-ski freaks out there. You really can put some nice drink in the top of this pole. You can unscrew it, put some Jägermeister or another drink inside of there, and then during your ski trip, you can sip on that in the lift or in between, or in the upper ski, and bring your own drink. It's a cool gadget. It's not for me, I don't drink, but for some people it's really nice. Okay, let's talk a little bit about pole sizes. So you see I have this pole, what I usually ride with, but I also have this huge one. This is 130, I believe. 130, yeah. And I use this one for racing. Why do I want a bigger pole with racing? It's actually only for the start. If you want to start with a race, then you're just gonna lean onto the poles and you're gonna push off. And the longer the pole is, the longer you can keep connection with the ground and you have a faster start. You can really lean into it and get off. Afterwards, when you're going through, you don't really need the pole for a pole plant or anything. So then it doesn't matter that it's a little bit longer. So these are my poles I use usually for racing. A little bit longer, it's for that start, that fast start that you can get away. I also like for racing these aluminium ones that if I fall on it or they break, then it's a little bit safer as the carbon one. But you can choose for yourself in that, obviously. Another feature of the pole is the baskets. That's this round thing at the end of the pole. You have different sizes. If you look at the green one, this is pretty small, this is a little bit bigger, and this one is huge. Why do we have different baskets? Well, the smaller ones usually are for racing. That means if you're gonna hit the poles in between the race, that it doesn't really catch on the pole, that it keeps your speed. And the other thing is it doesn't knock it off of the pole. The middle ones are for a little bit all round. Sometimes maybe you go off-piste, maybe sometimes you're on the piste, all for everything. And these ones are really off-piste baskets. So this is really to hold the snow and stabilize the pole, because in the soft snow, if you go into with a small basket, then the whole pole will sink in. And then this comes in really handy, really nice. To strap or not to strap, we have these straps on the end of the poles. You see some of my poles have them, some don't. What is important to know with that is that if you ski on the slopes, you can connect them to your hands, that you don't lose the pole when the snow is a little bit sticky. You see that sometimes happen. But if you go off the slope, never go alone, always take a guide or a professional with you. But if you go, then it's important that you don't connect the sleeves to your arms, because in an avalanche case, you get pulled down by the poles into the avalanche. And if all the material you can let go of, the chance is bigger that you can stay on top of the avalanche. So they're in my way sometimes. There's some poles I took them off, some poles I still have them, that I have this choice, but you can choose for your own. Poles also have some different tips on them. So if you look at the tip of the pole, you see one is a little bit more pointy and one has kind of a cross on it. This doesn't really make a difference. I would say for kids and stuff like that, I would take a less pointy pole, that if they stick each other that they don't get hurt. So, and this has a little bit more friction in my feeling, so I like this pole a little bit more over this one. If you have small kids or you like to play with your poles with friends and poke each other, then I would go for the softer one. It's more comfortable for your friends and kids. If you look at the grip of a pole, what you want to check is how it's built up. If you look at this one, this is a whole solid, and here I can push and pull on and it stays in one spot whatever I do. Even when I push really hard on it, it will stay in place. It's just screwed in, so it will not go anywhere. This is also a little bit more expensive pole. If you look at the same brand, a little bit cheaper pole, so they're both from Corpedel, then you see that this one has a foam made onto plastic. And sometimes what happens is this can come loose and start to move because of all the pressure that you push on it when you ski with it. Keep this in mind. You don't need maybe the more expensive pole, but for longevity, this is gonna be for sure more longevity than this one. This is gonna keep up through everything. In a few years, this will usually come loose, and yeah, skiing is gonna be a little bit more difficult. If you look at the pole, some poles have this layer down at the grip. So here you have the grip, and then here you also have this foamy bit. Where is that for? Well, this is really typical for ski touring poles. If you go ski touring, you go along a steeper hill. One pole is usually longer because it's on the downhill side, and one pole is on the uphill side, so it's shorter. So what you can do is the downhill pole, if the hill is like that, you have the normal grip, and the uphill pole you can grab here, so your hand is not gonna end up above your head. So you can still comfortably walk over the steeper slopes. So if you check and you see poles having this, that's specifically for ski touring and stuff like that. It can also be nice if you like to grip them for exercises and stuff, but usually it's really a ski touring pole. All right, next up, how are we gonna choose the right length of pole? You know, in the shop, what they say a lot of times is take your pole, grab it under the basket, stand up, and then when your arm is 90 degrees, then you have the right size. This usually doesn't really work like that because they oversee one thing, and that is, if you look at a ski boot, you're not standing straight. Your boot is bent and you are leaning forward when you're skiing. Your shin is supposed to be in the front of the boot. So if you want to test your poles and you have your ski boots on, and you want to have the right height, try to keep the boots on, press your shin to the front, and then you want to be more or less 90 degrees. What you also can do if you don't have your boots on, bend your knees a little bit and go for a little bit shorter pole, because this is also with your skiing technique gonna push you to become lower and have more movement in your skiing, and don't stay too static. Because if you have two big poles and you move down, then you're gonna look like that. It looks really stupid and skis horrible. Yeah. So for me, for example, I ski a lot of times with these poles. These are 115, I'm 180, and this is really nice for me. When I ride with this, I can really move down and still do a perfect pole plant, and this is really comfortable to ride for me. Then the most important thing, what kind of tricks can you do with the pole? What I like to do is really balance the one pole on the other one. Let's see if I can do this sitting. So you balance one pole on the other one, you check the top of the pole, and you can balance on the side, and this way you can really impress your friends, hopefully. Thank you for watching. Try to subscribe and like if you liked the video, and see you soon for our next video.